One more fly that I use a lot, and I've been asked to do a video on this one because I've given some people a copy of them and they've asked me to show them how to tie them. They work pretty well. You're going to need some green marabou, that color of marabou, and fluffies like that'll work just fine. You'll see how I use that in a second. I usually pull any excess loose off. Also some chenille, depending on who it's made by. This one is called Midnight. It's black and primarily black, dark blue with some crystal flash in it. The hook is a size 6X long, and I'm using 140 denier thread. You see I already started that. Now you're going to see me doing some steps that aren't required, but I have found with the browns, when I go after the browns, they tend to tear things up a little bit when you get into the better sized ones. So I'm going to throw almost a head wrap back here in the bend in the hook before I even start with my marabou to keep it from shifting around as I work the fly and to help protect it when I get into the browns. And you take the marabou, sweep it back. You want to leave about that much out, so it's not quite shaft length on the hook. That's about what you're going to want to use as the tail section. I'm going to tie this down real quick like, and then start the wraps. Now I cheat here also to help secure this even better. I'll do 3 wraps where I'm going to mount it, and then I'll fold that out of the way, and I'm going to do 3 quick wraps in front of it, and I'm going to come back and do 3 more on this section of marabou. That really gives you a good solid baseline to work from. I'm going to take the marabou, I'm going to kind of spin it into a lump, and I'm going to start turning this. And I'll show you what this is used for in just a second, but you want to get as much of this on there as you can. Wrap forward, leave enough room for a head wrap like this. Okay. Now I'm going to start twisting this to the rear again. I'm going to pull that as tight as I can, hold on to the hook so I don't mess the hook up, lay that down. And I'm going to start my forward wrap with my thread. I'm going to trap that marabou that's there, and then I'll show you how to trap some more of it in just a second. I'm going to wrap forward till I get up to where I've actually doubled over the marabou, hold that down. Now I'm going to do some good solid wrapping around this. I'm going to come up, back over it, back forward again. I'm going to do another partial head wrap up here on the front of this, just to help keep it from shifting. I'm going to cut off the excess here, this last piece of the feather stem. Pull this marabou back, and I got something that's a little bit longer than I really wanted, so I'm going to pull that forward, collect it. I'm going to wrap back over the top of that back to add in the chenille. I'm going to just do a quick wrap over this. I'm tying this a little bit faster than I normally tie it. I don't normally travel this fast, but I don't want a 20-minute video either. Excuse me. So I'm going to bring this back here. I'm going to take the chenille, and I'm going to strip off a little bit of the chenille mixture, so I leave just the threads hanging out. Just a short piece like that. I'm going to lay this down back here where I want to start the body wrap. Do 3-4 wraps over that, so it's good and solid. Start wrapping forward. Now I can take this excess marabou that's sticking out, pull that up, and I'm going to wrap forward about 2/3 of the way up the hook. So I'm going to stop about there. So I've got a longer tail section than I do front section. Again, this is just for securing it and helping keep it in position when you get a hold of a nice brown. Now I'm going to take the chenille, I'm going to back wrap the chenille towards me, and I'll show you one of the tricks on that in a second, but I'm going to wrap that back toward me, one layer up to the thread. It's usually about 8 wraps when I reach the thread where I've stopped with my thread. A couple of wraps over that, again to secure. Now I'm going to take this, I'm going to wrap this forward, not quite up to the head section, and I'm going to wrap back over the top of it, back to my thread, and get to there, I'm going to come over the chenille with a wrap of thread, so it's good and secure. Do another partial head tie off to secure my thread so it doesn't move. I'm going to do the third layer of chenille back over towards me. Now you notice I'm going away from me under, towards me over. And the reason I do that is it also helps it add a little bit more security when I tie it down. Because what I do now, and this is where I cheat, to help really keep that secure and keep it from slipping, I'm going to do 2-3 wraps over the front of it. I'm going to come up behind it, okay, over the top of it, and reverse a couple of wraps. Now I'm going to come back over it from behind and go ahead and forward wrap a couple of times. Now I've got that really bound down by multi-direction wraps like that. Now it's not going to come apart when they get a hold of it. It's not going to unwind on you. Do off your head, and I cheat on the heads too. I don't use head cement. I do use friction wrap. And the friction wrap, what I do is I'm going to do 5 layers here real quick, like with a whip finish. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Drop that. I'm going to do 5 more over the top of that. 1. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now when I do that, as opposed to head cement, I'll wrap that around my finger. I'm going to take it under away, back over the top towards, back down under, back up here, and I'm going to pull on this until it breaks the thread. Again, like I showed on one of the other videos, that causes it to cinch down into itself and makes it pretty hard to get loose. I haven't had more than a couple of them out of thousands of flies that actually came loose at the head. So what do we have? Now let me get a hold of this, and I'll hold it where it's easier to see the whole thing. Okay? That's what it looks like when it's finished. That is the bruiser. Now, if you want, you could add eyes to it, you could add a face cone to it, you can do just about anything you want. But that is the basics on building a minnow pattern. And the reason I built this pattern was it started by accident on a fancy bass fly I had done. And when I tied it without all the fancy stuff, I stopped by one day where I know browns hang out, and guess what? It raised Cain with the browns. And I've been tying it ever since. And that's going back 12, 15 years ago. I've used this almost exclusively when I go after browns, and very, very seldom am I disappointed in its use. Part of that comes from research that showed that when they reach 18 inches in length, give or take a little bit, but mostly 18 inches in length, their primary food source, they become cannibalistic carnivores, which means they'll eat their own. They eat smaller fish. They'll only do the insects when there's no smaller fish around to eat. You can go into this and go just about anywhere that there are browns and have a lot of fun. There you go. Try it out. Simple, easy tie. After you tie it, a few of them, you get to where you can do them fairly fast. I slowed down to really show this one. And if you want to go after browns, like I said, give it a try. You might find yourself very pleasantly surprised. If you have any questions, you can get a hold of me through email or you can text me. And I'll catch you later. Have a good one.